Hi, everyone, and welcome to the HYPACK and Absolute Ocean workflow webinar. For today's presentation, we're going to show you how this workflow provides a complete solution from data collection to delivery and how it just got better with some new features and updates. We'll be taking questions throughout the webinar, so please submit them using the question chat box. Our presenters for today's presentation are Jerry Knisley, Technology Manager from HYPACK, and Siri DeLang, VP Product Management and Marketing for TerraDepth. With that, I'm going to turn over the presentation to Jerry and Siri.
Thank you, Brittany. So let's start off. We're going to talk a little bit about what HYPACK is. And HYPACK is a company that creates hydrographic survey software. We've been in business since 1984. In that time, there have been over 18,000 licenses issued for our software. It's used in 7,000 companies worldwide. And the other day we had a conversation and I looked up how many countries we were actually in, and it's 144 countries around the world that have the HYPACK software. So a little bit about HYPACK. We're used in a lot of different areas of surveying. And in the recent years, we've started working in terrestrial land surveying with LiDAR systems. A lot of times they're put on boats. We put them on small drones to do bank erosion and near marine environment type surveys. We're not getting up and surveying your construction project, but we are working near the shoreline. Nautical charting, environmental mapping. We're doing a lot of work with Sontech and YSI and other companies in the ADCP and environmental world. Geophysical surveys like a side scan or a multi-beam survey for like beach renourishment or cultural resources. Underwater search and survey. So HYPACK's in a lot of different areas. Been around, like I said, for almost 40 years. So I'm going to pass it over to Siri now and let her talk about Absolute Ocean.
Thank you so much, Sherry. So TerraDepth's overall goals is to provide ocean data faster, greener, and cheaper. We build robots, we collect data, and we have software. So Absolute Ocean basically allows you a better approach to ocean data management. So let's go back and look at why did we develop Absolute Ocean? It is time consuming to deliver data. Today, a lot of data is still delivered through hard drives, which are not secure and slow, and Dropbox, SharePoint, and similar tools which cannot visualize the data, and you need to find a GIS expert to actually download the data and display it for you. It's also hard to find data. We have talked to a lot of people that have lost their very expensive and valuable data, either because it's stored on hard drives that have gone bad, or they simply cannot find it. We have seen this vertical being slow to adopt cloud solutions, and we believe that is because, for one, the amounts of data in this industry is so large. It hasn't been easy to get data up to the cloud, and we'll show you today that we have changed that. Second reason is data security. Security is a really big deal in this industry, and again, I'll touch a little bit on that in just a minute. So why Absolute Ocean? For one, collaboration. You can do the file transfer fast and secure. You can upload all of your files to AO. We do have a requirement to visualize, but you can store any kind of data in Absolute Ocean, including your raw data, documents, and permits, and so on. Visualization of data, it is very, very easy to use. While in the past, the majority of your stakeholders would see screen prints and PDFs and PowerPoints, they can now actually play with the data without extensive training. If you know how to use Google Earth, you know how to use Absolute Ocean. And then third, visualization enables collaboration, of course. Data management, it takes seconds to find historical data within AO. It is very easily searchable and supports petabyte scale. We are actually also just now working on some enhancements to display very, very large files. So meaning high resolution and large extent files. So think a very detailed pipeline that is also very, very long. And as you can see in this webinar, in a minute here, Jerry will show you, we are working on an automated sync and automated upload, which is a game changer. You can analyze data, you can see 2D, 3D views of your data in the context of the rest of the Earth. You can view change over time, measure length, area, see profile line and elevation and so on. And it's also very secure. We have user and role-based security. So we allow your admin to determine who has access to your workspace, and within that, what projects each user has access to within your workspace. We are running on Google Cloud now, and we are developing both an on-premise and a GovCloud solution. And since we are developing for GovCloud, of course, we need to have extremely, extremely tight security. And then keep in mind, we are customer zero. So we have our own survey team internally that use AO extensively. So everything is tested very, very thoroughly before it hits customers or hits the market, meaning it will be a much better product. So here's how some of our customers are using AO today. For one, immediately replace Dropbox, Google Drive, WeTransfer, and hard drive for sharing data. It saves a lot of time and it's a much better customer experience. For two, you can send coverage updates to your clients much easier, creating a much better customer experience and saving time. For three, you can build a catalog of data for previous projects, and that helps you so that you never have to resend data to customers. They have 24/7 access to their data, but can also be used internally. If you are redoing a survey you have done in the past, you can very easily go back and relook at the data you collected in the past. And then, of course, just replace this to be your ocean data storage management, saves time, removes issue with duplications, and takes advantage of Google Cloud's data security and backup and so on. So, Jerry, back to you.
Thanks, Siri. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start off. We have a quick poll, and I'm going to launch the poll now, and we'll let the poll sit open here for 30 seconds or so. I see a bunch of people are voting. If you get a chance, really helps us to have some insight into, how effective and what target market we're trying to present this to. So probably another 5 seconds, and then I'll stop the poll. Looks like the voting has slowed down. I'll close the poll now. Okay. And all right. I don't know if it showed the poll results or not, but it was supposed to. It doesn't look like it did. So we'll go on.
Yeah, we can actually see it, Jerry. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you can see the poll results. All right, on my screen, it didn't show me the poll results. Sorry about that. All right. Looks like we have about 58% on-site hard drive servers, right? So some people are using SharePoint, and 17% have a geospatial cloud software. And we will turn on very interesting results. Now I'm going to turn off the poll results, and you should see my screen again. And let's talk about some key benefits of the integration. And it's key benefits of the integration. And the reason that we did this, we've done a webinar one other time when we first started working together. And the integration was at a state where Absolute Ocean could receive HYPACK files. We could format, and you'll see that HYPACK will make sure your data is in the right format. HYPACK at the first webinar that we did in the beginning of the collaboration, we could give you the data and you could upload it. And it was a very manual process. So what we've worked on is providing effortless access to your raw data. There's a part of the integration is to automatically upload your HYPACK project. So you go into the integration and you sync the HYPACK folder of the project with your Absolute Ocean project. And then as data is created within your HYPACK project, it automatically uploads to the Absolute Ocean project. What we want is HYPACK and the AO integration to do the heavy lifting for you. We want to avoid having to send those hard drives around and to copy files, and especially with the large data sets that people are processing now and collecting massive amounts of data, it can be very time consuming to get the data from one person to another. And with remote work, a lot more people aren't working on the vessel or in the same area. Sometimes survey crews are very far away. So the next thing, we used to do this when we shared the data over the network. So on a boat, the Army Corps of Engineers, we wrote this for them originally so that you could take, on the left here, you see the data collection. They're running HYSweep, collecting some multibeam data. And every time HYSweep would stop logging data, it would upload to a folder across the network to the data editing software or the computer that was running MBMax 64. And then someone would sit at this computer and they would edit your data. And every time you stopped logging, it was really fast transfer on a local network from the survey computer to the data editing computer. And it worked really well. But what we're talking about doing now is doing the same thing as Absolute Ocean is the network in the middle and the data repository. On the left-hand side, you can see our survey vessel. And our survey vessel's out there collecting data, and it's running lines and filling in the multibeam matrix. It can actually be anywhere in the world. And over here on the right, we have our data scientist editing our data, our person that's going to receive the data and clean it up. And we get the data from the vessel to that person through Absolute Ocean. And through this integration, every line, just like we had on the local network, every time you stop logging a line, the survey data transfer program is going to put it in an upload folder, and it's going to get sent to the cloud to Absolute Ocean. And then it's in sync. Now, what happens to the person on the right if, say, the survey vessel was in a vastly different time zone? Let's say it's in San Diego and it's surveying the harbor in San Diego. I'm in Connecticut. So they're surveying much after my day ends. I come to work first thing in the morning and the data is there because the boat is synced to Absolute Ocean and my editing station is synced to Absolute Ocean, and it's going to take anything the boat collects and it's going to upload it to the Absolute Ocean project. Anyone in the middle has an opportunity to log into Absolute Ocean, see the progress of what's going on, and then when I get up in the morning and I come to work, I've got new files to work on. So let's go see some of this in a demo. And I pre-recorded my demo so that it would be much easier to see some of this stuff. So here we're in HYPACK, and you'll notice we're in the shell. Is the video playing? Okay. So the first thing I want to see is I want to go in here and I want to set my geodesy. This is important. I'm going to set my geodesy to an EPSG grid. I'm going to screw up my geodesy on purpose here. I'm going to go to EPSG. I've got a different code. I know it's 2249 for Massachusetts mainland. I'm going to check the box, and using the EPSG geodesy settings, it'll actually set to a known grid. It's a really nice thing that we've put into the HYPACK geodesy engine right now. So, okay, we're done here. Second thing I want to do, this is a demonstration, so I'm going to go into HYPACK hardware. And last time I was out, I was using a Sontec RS5. In the new version of HYPACK, we have a vessel manager menu. I know I have an AO simulation, so I'm going to open that up, and it's going to set my lines and it's going to set my hardware up for the things that I need. So in here, I've got auto lines. One thing about this vessel manager is the vessel manager stores your information. And I'm going to go over here. Let's go to the HYPACK store and the vessels folder. It's going to zip up 3 files. And you'll notice that every one of the zip files is listed on the left-hand side in the vessel manager. If I open up one of these, I'll open up the simulation and show you inside. There are 3 files in here. One is HYPACK INI, Survey INI, and the Side Scan INI. So I can configure a vessel to have whatever hardware I want it to have. And then if I need to go with a different configuration, that's what I can do. Now I'm going to go into survey. Traditionally, we would go under HYPACK survey and HYSweep, but I'm going to use this icon here, the Smart Launch. Smart Launch is going to bring up HYPACK survey and HYSweep survey for me. Now in this simulation here, we have everything running, and I have a negative start line gate, so it looks kind of like a D. As long as my vessel passes within my start line gate, I'm going to start logging. You can see my matrix is filling in. So one of the things that we have configured in this particular survey was auto lines. My vessel is following the first planned line. That's the only line that I've set up for the system because I don't know how deep the area is, how far my lines need to be spaced. In my start line, I have a 45-degree beam angle, and it's going to allow me to follow this red line, and you'll see a blue line to the right and a red line to the right of that. The far red line, you'll see a little bit of a hiccup in the data. Over here on the right, I'm highlighting the auto lines. That red line right there, and you see a little bit of a hiccup in that spot, it's gonna ignore the hiccup, and it's gonna plan a straight line across that. So my next path will be smooth and straight. This is an autonomous vessel actually running off Boston in the anchorage, and we're gonna see that in a little bit. But as it's following its line, it's planning its next path. So under here, I want to go in, I'm going to set my colors. I'll set my bands to something silly. Let's say, what do we think here? 30. I'll set it to 30. When I say okay to that, I'll apply it. And you can see that my colors are off. It's just really dark. I don't see any definition in the survey. Right click. They added auto scale to matrix, and now my data looks much better. It scales to the minimum and maximum of the matrix values. And I can do that as many times as I'd like. Zoom in here, you see a little bit of these hiccups. There's our auto line. One of the nice things that we're going to talk about in a minute is auto processing. So over here where we have the survey data transfer program, you'll notice that it's automatically already taken my data from my raw folder and put it in an upload folder. The reason that's important is it needs to go into a folder outside of the raw folder that I'm writing to so that the sync programs can happen. Most sync programs don't like to sync a folder that you're actively writing to because it tries to sync the file you're actively writing to. So for the Absolute Ocean integration, what we do is we created an upload folder. We sync our raw folder to the upload folder, and that uploads the data. One of the things I did here to make it better is I have a log backup time of 1 minute. And you can see the log backup time set to 1 minute so that my files going to the internet are smaller. I can set this to any number that I'd like. I can set it to 15, but really in this particular scenario, I don't want to go past maybe 3 minutes. The speed of your internet connection is going to make a big difference. That was under options, navigation parameters. Okay, so as we're running along, collecting data files, I've got everything coming in. If I set my colors on this side, I auto scaled them again. We'll let it go 30 minutes later. You don't want to sit and watch a lot of files run. You can see now I've run through several lanes, and each lane is overlapping with the previous lane. And on the left-hand side, you'll notice off the port side now is my auto lines. I'm not sure that you noticed before it was off my starboard side when we started. The software is, every time you start and stop logging at the end of a lane, it's going to assume that you want to switch the side that you're collecting your data from. So this way we worked from what would be the east towards the west. Here's north. So east towards west, and I was going south, and I went north, and it it worked to my left, right, off to my port side. Once I stop logging, it creates the new line, and now you see I've got a new start line gate and I've got a new direction to follow. Up here, I'm going to change that to 45 degrees. And we'll turn around. And as soon as my vessel enters that start line gate, it's going to start recording for me. This is an autonomous vessel. So in this particular scenario, we've got an autonomous vessel that's collecting data offshore, and I don't have to interact with this computer in any way. It's following its lines. The autopilot is making sure that it follows its lines within a certain tolerance. Right now I'm offline as part of the simulation. But you'll see that it's shifted now to the starboard side. The red line is collecting data from the opposite side to create my next plan line. There is a gate that you set up in the setup dialog for the auto lines to help keep that line nice and smooth. The point of this was to show a multi-beam survey on an autonomous vessel, and we're going to try to automate as much of this process as we can. So we have the vessel collecting data. It's every time it finishes a line in the background, it's transferring the files across the network, putting them in the upload folder on this particular computer, and it's going to automate sending that data to Absolute Ocean. We'll just let this run for a second, and you can see it passed through. One of the things that I wanted to show was this area. There's a disturbance on the bottom inside I think it was probably where they had one of the dredges running. So now let's talk about the internet side of this. Your internet speed matters and how fast you can get your data up there, but also controlling, like I did, the 1 minute files, keeps the files small. It doesn't matter if you have a slow or fast internet, it's going to transfer your data. It just might take a little bit longer. And then once it's up in the internet, so we're going to go into Absolute Ocean now, and I'll log into my AO account. And this is what you see when you first log into Absolute Ocean. Absolute Ocean's logo. No. Siri had said if you can run Google Earth, you can run Absolute Ocean, and here is the Absolute Ocean, the first thing you'll see. The red dot, or the blue dots, sorry, the blue dots are public surveys that are in there, and the yellow dots are surveys I've entered. We're going to go into my Boston Auto because it's automatic. And here is Absolute Ocean's view of the survey that we were just conducting. I'll turn off some visualizations that I had. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to go up to my Boston Auto and click on this is where you would put in your metadata, and you put in notes, the description. You'll see on the bottom left there's a latitude and longitude. That is going to control where my yellow dot is. Remember before I did the EPSG code, I know it was 2249, so I'm going to set it, and I set it to 2249. I have an ASV running a multi-beam. This is all metadata that's searchable. So you can go in and search text fields. I have all these files. Because I had it, we used to go in here in the previous one, we hit the upload, browse our files. But now all of these files were automatically synced. Anything that changes, INI files, text files, matrix files, anything that change will be synced into your project. So if the file was written once and then there's a new size or a new change to it, it'll actually be uploaded. Okay. So now I actually created a KMZ file of my planned lines, and you can see that I have a visualization for those. I have a visualization for one of my XYZ surveys. I've generated an XYZ from the matrix, and if you zoom in, you can see the grid. I'm right-click and dragging to pan around, just like you would in most GIS things. So I changed my background. Let's go look at a couple of our files. On the right-hand side, you can see there's visualizations, those little arrows up on the right here as I scroll through the files. If it's grayed out, it's not a file that Absolute Ocean can visualize, but much like the PDFs you can upload, they're available. So if I go into the files and I'm going to search for the sort directory, here we go. Open it up. I've got an XYZ file. We're going to visualize that. I'm going to give it a different name because I've already used that name once. And then I'm going to change it from meters to feet. I'm going to go positive down. And I could type in a minimum and a maximum depth. My geodesy is set. I'm going to generate a visualization. Now, this is a fairly large survey area. I'm going to go in here. I'm rendering it. If I hit the refresh button here, it's going to show me that it's in the process. It only takes a few minutes. I'll hit the refresh button again. There we go. And now it's already available. So now we can go in, we can hit the button on the eye, and it's going to actually show us that visualization that we just created. Zoom in here. I can hold the control button. I can pan around. I can rotate. This is actually a 3D display that I can rotate down, and you can see my data in 3D. This is unedited data. I haven't applied a patch test to this. This is just as it came out of the vessel. We haven't done any post-processing RTK on the data. There's a little bit of noise in here that we're going to clean up in editing. There's that area I was concerned about in the anchorage, and here's the edge of the anchorage. There's a big shoal at the end of it. I can move around in here. I can actually just pan around, look at different things. Siri's going to show you more tools in here, so I cut out, I'm not going to show you some of the things that you can do with the data that's coming up here in a minute. So these would show where my planned lines are. That's what the white lines are. You can see the survey data, the colorized by depth like a heat map. So what will we do next with this? There's a couple things you can do in here. Let's see, this is an area of concern. That little spot, maybe there's something in there that I'm worried about. So I can go up and I can share that information. I'm going to click here and it's going to copy to my clipboard, and then I would share that information. So now what else can HYPACK do with that data? Let's go to the survey side of it. I stopped a couple things at the end there. I don't want to bite into what Siri's about to talk about. So let's, on the other end, all the data is flown up to the internet. It's in Absolute Ocean. And in downloading that data, I have my computer on the other end running multi-beam auto process. And while the survey is going on, this can happen in the background. In Connecticut, the survey is in Florida, and I set this up so I'm going to process one file at a time, and I want to see the read parameters at the start of the file. So that little red box there tells me that I'm in auto process mode. First files come in, I'm going to do my read parameters. I go in and I can set my cell size if I want. I'm going to leave it at 3 feet. I'm going to set up my filters because it's automatically going to run through these. I have some basic filters, 65 feet. I want to change that to 70. My GPS, I don't need to filter that. Sweep, we'll turn on the overhang undercut, and we'll turn on the median filter too. Matrix filters, I got this set pretty tight, 2 foot for the median value. And then under devices, everything looks good there. Corrections look good. And then we go to edit processing. I have it set for the MRU heave. So it's going to use my MRU. Then I'll say OK. It's going to load the first file. Now it's already cleaned up the file. And what it's done is it's gone in here and it's run the filters and it's saved the file. My second file comes in, it's run the filters, it's cleaned up the file, and it saved this as an HS2X file. And being an HS2X file, everything's done there, it's cleaned it up, it's processed, and it saved it out. It also saves it as an HS or a XYZ file. I think I had checked in the beginning to save out an XYZ file, 1 point per cell. I can go in here, I can run my search and filters, I can interact with my filters. I cannot interact with any of the tools on the left-hand side. So now I can go in and play with my filters. I can adjust the color. Let's see, I'm going to go in here and set my filters. I'm going to change my, I turn this one back on because I like that filter running. Should just take a couple more seconds. We'll get another file here. It auto scales the colors based on the data that's loaded. And it's going to come in and you'll notice that the colors are slightly different in this one because it didn't have as many shallow points in it. So it takes another minute for a file to come in. I can click on a point. I can click on the hand. I'm going to rotate my data down. Normally, in the workflow that we're discussing, I would not be interacting with the program right now. It's running on a computer. Let's say that I left it running when I left for the night and they were surveying in San Diego and my computer was running. When I came into the morning, all of my data would be cleaned up to a basic state. It ran all of my filters for me. So I've gone in here and I've rotated down. I'm looking at different angles. I can change the Z. Let's look at a couple things. Let's go to, nope, a new file came in. Even while I was interacting with it, it just cut me out. So let's go to strikes. I can visualize my data many different ways. There's some data that I'm going to have to clean up later. I can go to dots. It'll draw it a lot faster. Again, I'm actively visualizing this while the data collection is going on. I'm going to set a depth 62 feet. Now, I want to show where my strike depths were. I'm going to right click. Let's try one other thing and then we're going to jump. I'm going to go to color settings and I'm going to change this. I'm going to put a project depth of 62 feet. And then I can go back to strikes and it's going to show me areas that are just above 62 feet. And then if I go back to a solid model, it's only showing cells that are above 62 feet. If I right click, go to color settings, I can go to shoals, and now you can see green is good, red is bad. So all of this is going on in the automated process side. I'm showing things and interacting with it, but each one of these files would be just being cleaned up by itself. So let's slide forward just a little bit. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to exit this program and I'm going to go back into it, but I'm going to show you one other setting. And here I'm going to turn off the process one file at a time. And now I'm in auto process mode, but I'm collecting multiple files. And the idea is it's not going to turn off the file. It's going to keep multiple files as it's done editing. So in here, in the first version, what I showed you was in the auto process mode, the vessel was collecting data. It was uploaded automatically to Absolute Ocean. It was downloaded automatically to the processing computer. The processing computer edited, cleaned, and saved a file and dumped it from memory. And then it did the same thing with the next file and the next file and so on. In this version, what it's doing is it's actually loading each file, and you'll notice on the left-hand side, my file list has 2 files. I unchecked the box to only process 1 file at a time, and you'll notice there's 2 track lines. This is very handy because you can see in the process it's going to run and it's going to clean up each one of the files. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to show this, if you'll notice at the bottom, there's some yellow X's. There's no yellow X's at the top, but there's yellow X's down here. That's the statistical filter. It's run it 1 time on the data above, and then when the next file loads, it runs it a 2nd time on the data above. And you'll notice that the only file that seems to have the yellow X's is where the statistical filters were only run once. And as it builds through its data set, you'll see it cleans that up and it's auto adjusted. That's why the colors have now gotten a little bit darker. And we'll come over here a little bit and I'll move us forward in the timeline. And now the boat has made the turn. It's come around the corner and now it's still building those files. You'll notice we're up to 5 files in memory. Those 5 files have gone up from the survey boat to Absolute Ocean down to the processing computer. It's cleaned up the data, it's saved the data, and it keeps running the filters for us. It's a really nice way to handle your data effectively. It's speeding through the process and saving your HS2X files for you. All right, so with that, we'll move forward a little bit. There's some visualizations that I've done. I'm looking at it. At the end of this, you press the little red button up here and it shifts from MBMax auto process mode into, it doesn't delete anything from memory, but it allows you to enter the edit session and control things. It will no longer find new files. It stops auto adding data to your editing session, but that's a good way to process your data. So on to the next slide. So once that's done, remember we were in a sync mode. I can have the data that's edited synced back up because we have the boat taking raw data and filling the raw folder. The raw folder is moved to the upload folder, which is moved into Absolute Ocean automatically, streamlining the process and doing the heavy lifting of getting your data shared. Then back here in Connecticut, we have our processing station set up that is syncing the download side. So it's taking all the data from Absolute Ocean and it's bringing it local and it's processing the data. The integration has 3 modes. One is to sync the data, one is to upload data, and one is to download data. If I'm in the sync mode, my processing station is going to bring down my multibeam data, it's going to process it, and then it's going to push back up to Absolute Ocean my clean survey. And what we have here is a customer view of the survey progress. So if I was doing this survey in Boston Harbor in the Anchorage for the Massachusetts DOT, they would be able to log in and view as the progress was going on. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Siri. And Siri, I'm going to start the demo. Ready?
Thank you, Jerry. I am now going to demo how an end user would normally use Absolute Ocean. So analyze data, collaborate, and then receive data. First of all, let's go in and open the project that Jerry created for us. As you can see here on the left-hand side of the screen is the metadata window, and that gives you a high-level view of project information as well as all the files that can be visualized in my project. Here I have one grid, I have 3-point clouds, I have 4 imagery files, and then I have the track line as a vector file. First thing I want to do here is measure the area that has been surveyed. So about 190,000 square meters. I also want to check the length. So about, 932 or so. Next thing, I want to go in and open 3D view. So I'm going to open my grid here. And as you can see, as I switch to a 3D view, in addition to lat and long at the bottom of my screen here, I also have elevation. So you can see what the elevation is as you hover over the different areas of my survey area. I can also go in and get a profile line of the area I have selected. Next, I want to share a view with my colleague. And before I share, I want to tailor what I would like to send. So in order to change the order that my files, my images are displayed on the screen and in the view, I can open this lock here. I can turn off that one. I want to move this slope 1 file to the top, and that's the order I want to send it in. And then I'm going to lock this lock again and turn on the vector file. And at last, just going to zoom to the right view that I want to share, and that looks good. Then I press this share view button. So this view link is now copied to my clipboard. I can send that to my colleague using email, Slack, Teams, any other tool. And as long as the recipient has access to Absolute Ocean and has access to the project, they will see the exact same view that I copied. And then at last, I want to show you how to access the files. So you go into this Files tab, and I can either just select all the files and download them, and they will be downloaded in that same folder structure as they appear here. Or I can go in and generate a report. And that report will contain the path, the file name, and the file size for all of my files within this project. So this is a really easy way to go in and make sure that the delivery is complete. All the files that I expected are all there. So that was a quick demo of, again, the end user view of Absolute Ocean. As you can see, this integration is fully up and running. We have not yet released it, and we are looking for a couple of more beta customers. So if you're interested in that, please do contact us at support@teradapt.com. And Jerry, back to you for the next poll.
Okay, thank you, Siri. So I'm going to launch the next poll. And here we go. Everyone should see the poll on their screen. We'll leave it open again for probably 30 to 45 seconds until I start to see people's responses dying down, or if they're still coming in. Hopefully this has been useful and helpful for a lot of people. Okay, I'm going to close the poll. We'll share the results. Looks like we have a preponderance of others. 24% of you are in ocean data management, and delivering ocean data is 24% also. Okay, I'm going to stop this, and you should see my screen again. So Siri.
Thank you. So thank you, Jerry. So we have talked quite a bit about the large data in this vertical and how you want to have just one version of data that everyone can access to ensure there is no duplication. And we have showed you how you can easily sync the data behind the scenes between your laptop and AO in the cloud. We are actually also looking at another very exciting enhancement, we want to be able to enable you to keep the data in the cloud from the time you have first uploaded the raw data, meaning you will actually process the data in the cloud using HYPACK as well. And some of the benefits of doing that is ease of storage or compute. You can easily add to your cloud environment, meaning that in many cases you can process the data much faster. You can keep your valuable data safe. Again, everyone has instantly access to all the data because they access it from the same location. And you saw how Jerry demoed syncing the data between HYPACK in the cloud and AO. Now you can actually sync it between HYPACK in the cloud and AO in the cloud, meaning there is less data going across the network. So again, we do have a beta program for this as well. If you're interested in that, please email us at support@teradapt.com for that as well. Jerry?
I think we're running out of time, so I'm going to pass it over to Brittany.
All right, sounds good. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. We will get in contact with everyone who had unanswered questions since we did run out of time, unfortunately. But if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. We can be reached at sales@hypack.com or sales@teradepth.com. And don't forget to join the beta program. You can email support@teradepth.com. And lastly, you can learn more about this workflow at our HYPACK 2024 training event on January 8th through the 11th in Savannah, Georgia. We hope to talk to you soon and have a great rest of the day.